Previously on The Real Madmen, we explored the life of David Ogilvy, the British ad legend whose creative genius and research-driven approach revolutionized Madison Avenue. Now, in episode 2, we shift our focus eastward to Dentsu, the Japanese advertising agency founded in 1901 that would grow into a global powerhouse. Dentsu's story runs parallel to the Western ad giants, but on a spectacularly different stage. It's a tale of innovation, cultural insights, and media domination. How one company helped transform Japan's modern identity through advertisement. I'm Mike Zima, and join me as we uncover Dentsu's origin story, its rise amid war and economic booms, and how its traditional strategy echo in today's digital marketing world. Dentsu's founder, Hoshio Mitsunaga, was a former war correspondent who launched the firm in 1901 with a bold idea: use advertising to fund journalism. In an era where newspapers were king, Mitsunaga created two companies, a newswire service and a sales agency. They merged them in 1907 into Nippo Denpo Tensushinsa, or Dentsu, meaning Japan Telegraphic Communication Co. This unique model meant Dentsu was born as both a news agency and an ad agency, integrating content and commerce from day one. Mitsunaga's team sold newspaper ads to subsidize news gathering, effectively marrying media and advertising in a way that was revolutionary for its time. From the start, Mitsunaga instilled three core principles for Dentsu's advertising. Business: offer low-cost ad rates, uphold transparent and fair deals, and provide full service to clients. These policies disrupted the existing advertising trade where shady commissions were common and quickly propelled Dentsu to the top of Japan's ad industry. By 1908, Dentsu was already recognized as the leading communications company in Japan, leveraging its exclusive rights to distribute United Press news to negotiate favorable ad placement in newspapers. It began publishing industry statistics, the first Japanese agency to track advertising volumes as early as 1909, showing a scientific data-mined approach long before big data was a buzzword. In the 1910s, with headquarters set up in Tokyo's Ginza district, by 1912, Dentsu continued to grow alongside Japan's expanding media landscape. The company's original office was a humble 12 by 18 foot rented house in Ginza, a far cry from the towering skyscrapers it would later occupy. Yet from this small space, Mitsunaga fostered a culture of passion and sacrifice. He famously carried a red business card that read, "Sacrifice to news and advertising," symbolizing his commitment. This ethos to dedication to clients and craft would become a Dentsu hallmark. In the 1930s, Dentsu faced intense pressure. In 1936, the Japanese government, intent on consolidating information channels, forced Dentsu to give up its news division to a state-run agency. Dentsu was reborn that year as an entity focused exclusively on advertising, ending the news advertising duality that had defined its first 35 years. By the early 1940s, the wartime regime went further. In 1943, authorities merged all existing ad agencies into just 12 firms to better control propaganda. Dentsu's operations were splintered. It ended up effectively overseeing 4 of those 12 units, but overall business dwindled under war condition. Amid the turmoil, founder Hoshio Mitsunaga passed away in 1945 just as World War II came to a close. Dentsu was nearly dismantled, its future uncertain. However, the company endured. And in 1947, a new leader took the helm, Hideo Yoshida. Hideo, who had worked at Dentsu through the war years, became the agency's 4th president and would earn a fierce reputation building the business from the ashes. He was nicknamed the Big Demon for his relentless drive, while his hard-charging staff were the Little Demons. Under Yoshida's strict discipline, executives arrived an hour earlier than everyone else and submitted daily reports for his review. He even continued an old company tradition, an annual climb of Mount Fuji as a test of endurance and camaraderie. In the summer of 1947, Dentsu employees once again trekked up Japan's sacred mountain, waving the company's banner at the summit. The message was clear. Dentsu was back in business, stronger and more united, ready to modernize Japan's advertising industry. Japan's post-war economic recovery presented fertile grounds for Dentsu's resurgence. Hideo Yoshida was determined to transform Japanese advertising into a modern, scientific enterprise. One of his shrewdest moves was to invest deeply into the emerging broadcast media. In fact, Dentsu is credited for helping found commercial radio and TV in Japan. The agency filed the country's very first application for a commercial radio station just months after World War II ended. Yoshida even lobbied Japan's parliament in 1950, extolling the importance of commercial broadcasting to the nation's future. Dentsu took stakes in news stations. One would become Tokyo Broadcasting System and didn't stop at radio. When television arrived in 1953, Dentsu provided critical support. The company loaned startup funds to local TV broadcasters, supplied them with hit programs and eager advertisers, and even sent Dentsu staff to help manage TV stations. In essence, Dentsu midwifed Japan's TV industry, ensuring that as radio and television blossomed, Dentsu grew right alongside. This symbiotic relationship gave Dentsu unparalleled clout. By the mid-1950s, Yoshida's team was block buying huge quantities of media space and time. Dentsu reserved as much as 60% of primetime TV advertising slots for its clients and locked in between 30 to 50% of ad space in major national newspapers. No other agency even came close. If a company wanted the best spot on TV or front page newspaper ads, they almost had no choice to go through Dentsu. This media leverage virtually guaranteed a steady stream of clients. It was a feedback loop of influence that kept expanding Dentsu's dominance. Not only that, Dentsu also became a shareholder in media outlets, from the Mainichi newspaper to local TV networks, further tightening its integration with Japan's news and entertainment channels. By 1957, over 800 advertising agencies operated in Japan, but Dentsu alone accounted for more than a quarter of all advertising billings in the country. The late 1950s were a time of breakneck growth for Japan, the economic miracle, and advertising was booming in tandem. Dentsu adopted a unique strategy to serve every major advertiser. It would handle competing client accounts simultaneously, a rarity in the West. For example, Dentsu managed campaigns for rival car makers, Honda and Nissan, at the same time, placing those account teams on different floors or even in separate buildings to avoid conflicts. Likewise, it handled competing electronic brands like Panasonic and Toshiba under one roof. This everyone is welcome approach, coupled with its media muscle, meant by the early 1960s, Dentsu had 5,000 clients, including Japan's biggest corporate and even the Japanese division of global brands. Sanutari's cartoon mascot Uncle Tori's, introduced in 1958, became an iconic face of post-war Japan advertising. A cheerful, run-town salaryman who enjoyed a whiskey highball after work, Dentsu and its clients pioneered such culturally resonant campaigns as television reached the masses. Japan's first TV commercial had aired in 1953, a 30-second spot for Seiko clocks featuring an animated rooster, produced by Dentsu for Nippo Television's launch. By the end of the decade, television and radio ads were ubiquitous, and characters like Uncle Tori's personified the optimism of the time. In one 1958 animated ad, a gloomy Uncle Tori's downs a series of whiskeys until he leaves the bar red-faced and jubilant, skipping with joy, a light-hearted metaphor for the nation's spirits lifting in the late 1950s recovery. With over 90% public recognition in later surveys, Uncle Tori's showed how deeply advertising could embed itself into popular culture. This was integrated marketing in 1960s styles, print, radio, TV, brand mascots, and in-bar promotion, all working in concert to win the hearts of consumers. By 1964, Japan had surged back onto the global stage, and Dentsu was ready to amplify that moment. Tokyo hosted the 1964 Summer Olympic Games, the country's first major international event of the post-war era. The entire nation was swept up in Olympic fever, fueled by unprecedented media coverage. Live color TV broadcasts and daily newspaper extras brought the spectacle into every home. Dentsu threw its full weight behind the Olympics, coordinating advertising, sponsorships, and promotions to ensure the games were not just a sporting success, but a marketing triumph as well. It wasn't just about placing ads. Dentsu helped orchestrate ceremonies, developed Olympic-themed campaigns for sponsors, and essentially demonstrated the enormous business potential of global events. The opening ceremony in Tokyo's National Stadium, with its grand parade of athletes under clear blue skies, became an iconic image of Japan's rebirth. For Dentsu, the Olympics proved that ads could galvanize national pride. It was an early lesson in what we now call event marketing, the integration of branding with live experiences on a massive scale. The late 1960s kept up the momentum. Expo 70 in Osaka, a World's Fair showcasing progress and harmony for mankind, was another chance for Dentsu to shine. Dentsu handled PR and advertising for the Japanese government pavilion and also worked for numerous corporate and foreign exhibitors, from high-tech companies to entire countries' displays. The fair attracted millions, and Dentsu's involvement ranged from designing eye-catching promotions to coordinating media coverage. The famous Tower of the Sun sculpture by artist Toru Akamoto became the expo's symbol, and Dentsu helped make sure images of it and the expo's futuristic attractions reached audiences far and wide. These nation-scale events of the 1960s were springboards that launched Dentsu into new services beyond traditional advertising. The agency was now not creating ads, but producing spectacles, managing sponsorships, and shaping Japan's brand image to the world. By the early 1970s, the results were clear. Japan's economy was skyrocketing, and Dentsu's fortunes rose in tandem. By 1974, 2 decades after Hideo Yoshida's post-war reboot, Advertising Age and Time magazine confirmed that Dentsu had become the #1 advertising agency in the world in terms of billings. It had finally surpassed the biggest Madison Avenue firms like JWT. This achievement was driven almost entirely by domestic success. Remarkably, over 90% of Dentsu's revenue still came from within Japan. Dentsu's new headquarters, completed in 1964 in central Tokyo, was a modernist high-rise designed by renowned architect Kenzo Tanji. The building itself, emblazoned with the Dentsu name, became a physical testament to the agency's towering presence in Japanese media and businesses. After withering the 1973 crisis and a brief economic cooldown, Dentsu charged into the late 70s with a vision to broaden beyond advertising. In 1978, the company even changed its English name from Dentsu Advertising Limited to Dentsu Inc., signaling a shift towards a full spectrum communication company. The goal was to cover all spheres of marketing and communication, from creative, ads to PR, from content production to media innovation. Dentsu began embracing emerging media like satellite television and later digital media, and took on large public projects such as regional expos and government campaigns to diversify its portfolio. One dramatic expansion came in sports marketing. Dentsu acquired exclusive Japanese advertising rights for the 1984 Los Angeles Olympics and launched the Ganbare Nippo Go Japan campaign to fully rally corporate sponsors behind Japan's athletes. The concept was ingenious. In exchange for corporate funding of sports federations, athletes would appear in sponsors' advertising, effectively turning Olympians into brand ambassadors. This laid the foundation for Dentsu's lucrative sports marketing arm and presaged today's big brand sponsorship deals. By tying brands to national sports heroes, Dentsu tapped into fans' patriotism and passion, blurring the line between advertising and national pride. As Japanese companies grew globally in the 1980s, Dentsu too looked beyond Japan's borders. In 1981, Dentsu forged a strategic alliance with New York ad giant Young and Rubicam, creating a joint venture called DYR. This partnership gave Dentsu's Japanese client access to Y&R's global network and allowed Y&R's multinational clients to tap into Dentsu's Japan expertise. Offices were set up in New York, Los Angeles, Europe. Suddenly, Dentsu had a bridge to the West. Dentsu also was one of the first agencies to enter China, opening a Shanghai office in 1981 when China's advertising market was still in infancy. To introduce itself, Dentsu organized a spectacular 300-person music pop concert in Beijing, broadcast in both China and Japan, subtly positioning itself as a cultural connector as well as a business partner. These moves showed Dentsu's foresight in Asia's emerging markets and its understanding that marketing could transcend borders, even in the Cold War era. Japan's late 80s bubble economy boomed and ad spending hit stratospheric levels. In 1988, Dentsu's annual revenues exceeded 1 trillion yen, around $8 billion at the time. The first advertising agency ever to hit that milestone. To outsiders, it might have seemed like Dentsu could do no wrong, yet the company was mindful of evolving with the times. In 1985, new president Gohei Koguri pushed an internal modernization, unveiling a corporate slogan, Communication Excellence, Dentsu, and reinforcing the credo of providing total communications service. Dentsu wasn't just making ads, it was offering clients an all-in-one solution: advertising, PR, market research, event marketing, and more. A precursor to integrated services many marketing firms strive for today, Dentsu even nudged Japan's conservative advertising culture forward. For example, in 1987, it produced Japan's first ever comparative TV advertising for all Nippo Airways. Direct comparison ads, common in the US, were long considered distasteful in Japan, but after regulators gave the green light, Dentsu's spot boldly claimed ANA had more comfortable seating than other airlines. Without naming rival JAL, the implications were clear. It was a mild claim by Western standards, yet it marked a shift. Dentsu was willing to experiment with new techniques and edgier approaches in advertising once taboo in Japan. The late 80s saw Dentsu riding high on a wave of consumer exuberance at home, while carefully laying track for a more global future. The 90s brought new challenges. Japan's economic bubble burst in the early 90s, leading to a slump that squeezed advertising budgets. At the same time, giant international agency networks like WPP and Omnicom began pushing into the Japanese market, threatening Dentsu on its home turf. Realizing the game was changing, Dentsu's leadership made bold moves to future-proof the company. President Yutaka Narita, Dentsu's ninth president, warned in 1998 that globalization and digitalization are shaking up every existing structure and that the next few years would decide Dentsu's fate in the 21st century. In a historic step, Dentsu decided to take the company public. It had been privately held since 1901 to raise capital and increase transparency, aiming to compete head-on with big global holding companies. In preparation for its IPO, which occurred in 2001, Dentsu embarked on a company-wide transformation. It invested in an American ad consortium called BCom3, formerly Leo Burnett and D'Arquai McManus agencies to strengthen its global alliance. It restructured internally to strengthen its strategic consulting and media planning services, recognizing that clients wanted more data-driven, sophisticated marketing guidance in the digital era. Dentsu began channeling resources into new media, from satellite broadcasting to the nascent internet, developing fresh business models around digital content and out-of-home interactive media. The company also doubled down on sports marketing, expanding its involvement in events like the Olympics. Dentsu was heavily involved in the 1998 Nagano Winter Games, the FIFA World Cup, and International Athletics Championship. Such events gave Dentsu real-time data and global visibility, bridging the gap between traditional media and the instant connectivity that digital platforms would soon provide. Regionally, Dentsu solidified its Asian leaderships. Narita's administration placed high importance on Asia, exemplified by projects like the Japan-China Advertising Education Exchange in the mid-90s, where Dentsu worked with Chinese officials to develop China's advertising industry. In one notable meeting, Chinese President Jiang Zemin was photographed with Dentsu's President Narita, highlighting Dentsu's soft power role in guiding China's market economy reforms. By the 2000s, Dentsu was evolving from a traditional agency into a hybrid marketing company, ready to tackle the internet era while maintaining its dominance in print and broadcast. The stage was set for Dentsu to enter the 21st century with a unique blend of old school clout and new school innovation. As our narrative comes full circle, we can see that Dentsu's saga is more than just corporate history. It's a mirror of Japan's own transformation and a blueprint for modern marketing. Dentsu started by uniting media and advertising under one roof, and today we talk about integrating marketing communications as if it were a new concept. In truth, Dentsu was practicing integration over a century ago, selling ads to fund news content, bundling creative work with media placement, and later offering one-stop solutions for clients across every channel. This foresight is strikingly relevant in the digital age. Modern brands strive to control their message across social media, search ads, influencer content, and much more. Much like Dentsu once controlled newspapers, radio, and TV in a holistic way, consider Dentsu's data-driven mindset. In 1908, it published advertising statistics to inform clients. Today's marketers obsess over analytics and real-time ROI dashboards, or Dentsu's dominance in media buying. In the 1960s, it cornered primetime TV slots, while now digital giants leverage programmatic buying to similar ends. Even the Gambari Nippo campaign of the 1984, which turned athletes into ad hoc influencers, pre-configured the influencer marketing and branded content strategies of the social media era today. And what are beloved brand mascots if not early viral content? Uncle Tori's and his 90% recognition rate in Japan shows how a compelling character and story can imprint on a generation, akin to today's brand storytelling techniques on YouTube and Instagram. In our previous episode, David Ogilvy showed us the power of the big idea and persuasive copy. Dentsu's story, by contrast, underlines the power of big infrastructure, the ability to control the means of communication, to integrate every element of a campaign from media to message, and to infuse advertising into the very culture of a nation. It's often said in Japan that Dentsu doesn't just advertise products, it shapes culture. From the TVs people watch, to the news they read, to the sports they cheer. This level of influence carries lessons and warnings into the digital era. Today's tech platforms and media conglomerates play a similar gatekeeping role globally, sparking debate reminiscent of Dentsu's once unquestioned sway at home. Dentsu's rise from a tiny Tokyo startup to a world-leading agency is a testament to strategic vision and relentless adaptation through wars, booms, and technological shifts. It repeatedly reinvented itself while never loosening its grip on the narrative. In doing so, Dentsu helped orchestrate the story of modern Japan, selling the dream of a better life in the 1950s, broadcasting Japanese excellence to the world in the 1960s, and connecting brands with people's hearts ever since. As we move forward in this series, we'll continue to spotlight the real madmen and women of advertising around the globe. But Dentsu's legacy stands unique, a reminder that marketing isn't just about selling, it's about understanding the pulse of a society and sometimes becoming its very heartbeat. Thank you for watching and see you next time on The Real Madmen.